Hero Club presents Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu. Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu. I am one of your hosts and founders, Wheelchair21, and joining me tonight, as always, is my co-host and co-creator, Projekt RDM.
What up?
Alright, he is here after being gone for at least, I think, an episode or two. I can't really recall if he was on 29, since it's been at least, like a 2 to 3 week gap since we ever shot that episode. I just remember, either Soundout was on 28 or 29, who is now, our substitute host since Mucha has a job. So, yeah, Soundout 12. He's here again.
I am here to bless you with my presence.
Well, someone has to get blessed, because we're all unholy.
Most of you.
I've
Bullshit.
watched too much Devilman in my life to be holy.
If you've ever seen that anime, you're not holy. If you've ever seen freaking, Berserk, you're not holy. If you partake in watching Guyver, you might be holy, but that's probably because he already stabbed you with his freaking, vibration blades, right, Projekt?
As long as Guyver wasn't made by Go Nagai, I think you're fine.
Yeah, Go Nagai can be kind of crazy sometimes, can't he, when he's not really working on Mazinger.
I feel like Go Nagai is like the devil living on Earth, influencing people with manga.
Yeah, because I was going to say, when he's not really doing, his Mazinkaiser, no, not Mazinkaiser, it's Mazinger or Mazinkaiser, or any of his offshoots, they're not that really devilish and obscure. They're just kind of crazy and ludicrous. But then when you start reading his other works, yeah. Or isn't he the guy who created Cutie Honey?
Yep.
Yep, so...
And also get a Robo.
Yeah, so yeah, he's a little unhinged, but we love that type of unhinged.
Look at, see, the thing is, Mazinger Z is very kid-friendly and approachable, but then you look at, Mazinkaiser, who literally has devil wings, and then there's Mazinkaiser's skull, who has a skull head and devil wings.
It's just it just keeps adding up and getting worse. It's just leveling up the playing field. It's just how far can I add to this devil insanity? It's I don't know. How can you do it? It's just him trying to find evolutions. It's like if Dragon Ball, if Toriyama just started actually adding real monstrous forms to every time Frieza transforms, rather than just making him turn into a skinny white guy and then a gold guy. It was as if stage 3 and 4 just kept improving till he became a giant kaiju.
Well, you know what? Giant dildo, I think, is what he was going for, so...
Possibly. You can't really tell with that. Who knows? But nevertheless, our 32nd episode is going to be pretty interesting, nevertheless, because on our lit list, for our news, we have Godzilla Monster Planet sequel and teaser, and then we also have a Kamen Rider X8 V Cinema trailer, as well as freaking a Denko Chojin Gridman Blu-ray box set, and for our discussion, we have Super Sentai Versus, the Super Sentai Versus series for our discussion. First off, though, let's talk about the goddamn Monster Planet teaser and sequel. We already know when this film is coming out. It is scheduled to be out in about, I think, May 2018. It is called the Godzilla Decisive Battle Mobile Breeder City. The current teaser for it is actually just artwork, and it is a poster as well as the advanced ticket stubs, which kind of foreshadow something to be as a Mecha Godzilla in this film. And that's practically all we know at this time. Soundout, what's your initial thoughts on the fact that for our first teaser of the second movie, it's Mecha Godzilla?
I mean, it's neat there's Mecha Godzilla, but really until I see the first movie, which I'm not that excited for to begin with, I can't really get excited for a sequel. I need to see the first thing before I see the follow-up.
Yeah, this is the issue I actually kind of really do have with the whole Digimon Adventure Tri-series, is that they hook you with visual teasers or trailers right after you've seen the movie in theater, and it's well, we're not seeing it till it hits home video or instant streaming services. That was actually the same thing that happened with Gundam Unicorn too. So that's one thing I hate about theatrical released OVAs like that. It's kind of stupid. I don't know if that's...
It's they're... To keep the releases going, they have to start the marketing train for the next one really before you get to see the first one. Luckily with Digimon Adventure Tri, we've had the Crunchyroll simulcasts, so we've been able to be, if you're, catching it right when the simulcast is happening, you can stay on top of the hype train because they reveal the next movie right after the current movie is released.
Yeah, and the simulcast for Crunchyroll is at least about a couple of weeks or a month after the film hits Japan.
No, it's the same day.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure because I remember a
It's
friend
the
of mine
same day
saying
as
it
the
was not.
theatrical release in Japan. In fact, because of the time difference, America gets it about 10 hours prior to the first screening of the movie in theaters in Japan.
Okay, well, like I do feel like the Monster Planet ordeal with the fact that what is it? It's not going to hit international market until like January 2018. I do feel like that is a huge fu. I feel like even though it's getting a theatrical release, you could have at least waited maybe a day or a week after you gave it its theatrical run just to let the rest of the world see it. But I
If
also
Crunchyroll was the people distributing it, I'd
yeah
totally see us getting it the same day. But because it's Netflix, they
yeah
like to space out their releases.
that's probably why. It's because they're like, oh, we have too many releases coming out for original content, so it's probably what's really screwing us. I mean, right now, like you and me both agree, we're not really happy with the film. Ironically, even your predecessing host or your predecessor, Janitor Joker, wasn't too happy looking forward to this, mostly due to the fact that I think all of us agree we're not happy with the polygon animation. All right. And so I guess we can move on to our next bit of subject, right? Which is the another ending, part one, Brave and Snipe movie, where the trailer we got is okay. I actually wasn't too enthused about it. Like, what's your total thought process on the whole fact that Lovelica's back, Saki's back, and XA, not XA, but Brave and Sniper allegedly at odds with each other yet again?
It almost feels like this movie's supposed to be a sequel, but yet it's going to have some Gaiden elements, and it's just going to like flash back to do a side story.
That's what I'm
Uh,
afraid of because that's what a bit of the Gaim Gaidens did, where they felt like they're supposed to take place, but it's all just like kind of flashback and ludicrous shit at the same time. Whereas
and
like
that's the thing is
the
all
Drive
these.
ones were kind of like only the what was it only the Mock one was an actual sequel to the series, where the other two were
No,
Gaidens.
Mock and Heart were both sequels, but Chaser was a interlude because of
Yeah.
how Chaser ended up in Drive.
Okay.
Um, but this kind of like I'm almost wondering if it's an episode of Stinger kind of situation for Q Ranger where the episode of Stinger begins taking place, smack dab right in present time when the movie was released of the series, and then Stinger and Champ get triggered into a flashback that took place earlier in the series, and then the whole movie ends in the present time. Something like that, I think, could be happening with Braid and Snipe because the
So pretty
clip
much what's
they
gonna end up
use,
happening, it's gonna be the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie.
kinda. I don't remember that movie, so I really
Pretty
don't.
much it opens with him injured and then talking about like, oh man, you don't expect shit like this to happen. Then it goes to his childhood. Then it goes to like 3 weeks before he was literally getting chased down by the cops after allegedly killing Electra Nachios.
It's kind of like that. I think when it comes down to it, I think it's probably going to follow the episode of Stinger format. 'Cause I think the of Stinger format worked well because they were encountering a monster in present time, and it was somebody that they encountered in the past. So we had to kind of tell the story of the past to bring it all to the present day. So who knows what's going to happen? I think with Brave and Snipe, the trailer seemed really at odds with itself. Like it wanted to be a lot of different things, and this V cinema may end up being a lot of different things in different time periods.
And that's why we probably won't care for this one necessarily. The next news is kind of a thing that we've kind of talked about before on the show. It's ironically a rolling joke when me and Joker were hosting, saying we want Blu-rays. Then the Blu-ray was announced, but there was only information saying a Blu-ray's coming. But hey, it's probably gonna end December or January. However, we now know the full information on Denko Chojin, Gridman, Blu-ray box set. The cool thing about this, it will feature all 39 episodes. It will be digitally remastered for 1080p HD, and it will span across 7 discs. That is 950 minutes for the entire runtime of the series. However, there will be over 100 minutes in bonus content, such as including credit lists, opening and ending sequences, as well as behind the scenes. There will also be not a built-in, but an in-package leaflet about the production of the series, as well as the fact that there's going to be a special event held on January 8th to commemorate the conclusion of the series from 1994. and it will feature our lead actor Masaya Oda, director Hirofumi Murarashi, as well as animation director Tetsuya Amamiya. They will be at this event in Japan called the Gridman Last Time Beyond Time and Space, where they will do a live Q&A and a commentary screening of Farewell Gridman. Now, the crazy thing about this box set, though, is it does come out really soon in December for 32,900 yen. And the interesting aspect about this is the actual box art cover actually is a direct homage to the original home video release and DVD distribution of the series, as well as Gridman now translates from, I think it was, interdimensional cop to Gridman the Hyper Agent. This is its new official English title by Tsuburaya. It's no longer interdimensional cop when you translate Denko Chojin. It's Hyper Agent, which actually had me and Sound Out going, damn, this is a pretty cool, translation for them now, or this is his new subtitle that he's supposed to have. Sound Out, what's your thoughts on the whole fact that we're getting a Blu-ray box set?
The Blu-ray box set, the packaging art is beautiful. Downright beautiful. I love it. Totally would like to see Tsuburaya bring it out over here in America, but I do know that is pretty unlikely. Hopefully, at the very least, a fan subgroup can get the Blu-ray version subbed and released to the fandom.
Well, there's at least one good thing we can bring up, even though we didn't cover it on the website, is the fact that Chayo finally lost the case with Tsuburaya, and Tsuburaya now has back the rights of all the old Showa series. So maybe that means with Crunchyroll's deal, they'll probably get out, the other Showa series that were held up because of Chayo, and maybe we might get at least distribution rights of Gridman through Crunchyroll services, and not a physical release though, but we might at least get a streaming release.
Yeah, and here's the thing too, is the streaming release would be amazing, because when Crunchyroll got Ultraman, that kind of caught us all off guard, as in, whoa, when did this happen? This is new. And just this year we got the original Garo series released on Blu-ray in America. So I kind of don't want to rule anything out anymore. The possibilities right now, we're at 6 Super Sentai series have been officially released on DVD. We have Garo on Blu-ray and Crunchyroll streaming Ultraman. I think Toku has never had this much licensed content outside of adaptations at any point in time. So anything's really possible at this point.
All right, and then the huge and final piece of news, like we said, is some Super Mini-Pla news that's going to drive all of us up the wall as we finally have release dates and official information on Super Mini-Pla Live Robo and Live Boxer. Now here's the issue that we have at hand. Live Robo is getting a retail release, and it's retailing for roughly 3,600 yen to 4,600 yen. And, well, Live Boxer is a premium web shop exclusives, premium Bandai, and it's about the same from the web shop, but then when you add in the shipping and handling fees, it's going to get a little bit more pricier for those two. They look wonderful, they look amazing, and the first thing that I noticed, as well as a friend of mine on Facebook noticed, is the fact that because of how it combines and forms, it has even more points of articulation already than Daijujin alone, just for Live Robo. Whereas Live Boxer doesn't really have that much articulation, but the fact that it still is allowed to combine with our Live Robo to create Super Live Robo is pretty damn good. Sound Out, tell us about your disappointment.
Okay, so thank you, Bandai, for making Super Mini-Pla Live Man Mecha, because this is the best thing they could ever do outside of just straight up reissuing the old original Live Man Mecha. They're some of the most expensive to get because the series is deservedly so incredibly popular, and the mecha are incredibly old. The series is going to be 30 years old next year, conveniently when these are coming out. It feels like a nice 30th birthday gift to Live Man. The only problem is that while we're getting Live Robo as general retail, Live Boxer is a premium Bandai exclusive, which I think is only the second Super Mini-Pla Super Sentai premium Bandai exclusive after King Brachion.
Yeah, because we only had 5 releases thus far.
Yeah, so it kind of sucks that our ratio is 3-2 on retail to exclusive. But I'm glad at least it's happening. And with Live Robo and Live Boxer releasing in the same month, you don't have to wait too long, which I think is nice. But it does kind of suck. That being said, I can try to complain that Live Boxer's Premium Bandai, but I already have my order in and I'm paying for it later this week. So I really can't complain because I'm buying into the Premium Bandai machine. But
I
that's
mean,
because
the only complaint is the fact that we have to buy into it in the first fucking place.
yeah, and that's like it's like I can live with it because like the more I talk to people, the more I can kind of understand why Live Boxer would be a exclusive because when I was talking to some people on Twitter, a bunch of them were getting really excited about Live Robo because Live Robo is this wonderful, wonderful design. And there's a bunch of people that said, yeah, even if Live Boxer wasn't Premium Band, I probably wouldn't pick him up. And I think it's just because Live Boxer, as a design, he's a box with legs and arms and a tiny little head. And I don't think he's the most flattering design anymore. It's not one that's aged particularly well. Neither has Super Live Robo. Of course, it was the first combination between two Super Sentai Robos. So, of course, there was some growing pains there. But definitely it feels like Live Boxer was made to make Super Live Robo. So I can understand that maybe Bandai saw it as, here's our safer option here because Live Boxer is not as popular as Live Robo. So who knows? Maybe Live Boxer would have sold if it was just like maybe sold together in a special set with Live Robo at retail. But I feel like they kind of played the safe card here.
That's the only argument my friend Nate said too, and it was I understand it, but I feel like it's a giant fuck you so far with the Super Mini-Pla line having already bought into it, knowing that hey, like the Gal Gagar thing, they haven't really announced anything really exclusive yet except the repaints and King Jadar.
Except for Jader.
Yeah, Jader and freaking the repainted version of him going, gold with the Goldion Crusher. But the thing is, I can understand King Jader because of how big he actually is, but I still think that the Brachion exclusive makes a little sense, even though they wanted to add in the motor. But the Live Boxer makes no freaking sense outside of its, I guess, overall basic, crappy, vintage design.
I think it's just the vintage design. Well, I don't think it'll, like, here's the thing.
It's a stigma.
Bandai wants to make as much money as they can. But I think that Live Boxer might be a hindrance, especially with how early in the line we are in for Super Sentai Super Mini-Pla.
Yeah, and that makes me kind of worried about other mechas getting that same treatment, whether they're, the main mecha or secondary mecha. Nevertheless, let's move on to our goddamn discussion. Today's discussion is going to be on freaking the Super Sentai Versus series. Anyways, the best way to start it off at is probably just talking about how the fact that the first one that ever happened was kind of like just a one-off film, done mostly with suit actors, and then it was like in hiatus for almost 20-something years before they decided to revive the concept, right? Sound out because the first one we ever got was, what is it, Go Ranger versus Jack, and it was literally...
Which did have actors in it, but
yeah, it was a suit.
It didn't have all the Go Ranger actors. It was kind of like a Jacka movie that cameoed with the Go Rangers.
Yeah, so like the very first one is like the only footage we've seen is like just small bits and clips because I don't think it's ever been released online. Like I don't think the entire film. Oh, it has the entire film.
There was a Blu-ray release in Japan and it got a fan sub.
All right, I'm gonna need to go download it because I did not know that it was even fan subbed at this time. I did not know.
I will send you a copy.
Send me a copy like right after the show because that was the only one I did not watch because I didn't think it was finished. Like I knew it got Blu-ray, I just didn't think any fan subbers actually touched it yet. Because all I remember about it that makes that movie iconic is how it tries to establish that it and the original writers are in a canon universe. Like the original Showa writers are all canon, and I think also isn't Spider-Man referenced?
Yes, Tokusatsu Spider-Man, Amazon, and V3 are all in the same universe as Super Sentai.
So does that mean Ichigo and Nigo aren't canon, or are they? Because
they
V3
are,
is.
But they were dead at the time.
Oh yeah, that's right, because there was that bullshit law of they kept getting blown the fuck up and then coming the hell back like 3 years later.
Yeah, and twice during V3's TV run, so.
That's some ludicrous shit when you think about it, that Ichigo and Nigo are literally Kamen Rider Phoenix Ikki from Saint Seiya, where they just get killed off and then just come back whenever the fuck they want.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's
what makes them amazing.
right.
What project?
Sounds about right.
Yeah, no, it's like kind of ludicrous, like, because I think the funniest thing was how there actually is a reference to Ichigo allegedly being the Phoenix in, what is it, Ichigo the movie, where they put him on that, like, Viking-like pyre, and then They light him up.
He absorbs the
And then
fire.
he absorbs the flame, and an explosion goes off as the Phoenix, and you're just like, what the hell am I
You
watching?
you'd
You
think that
cannot
explosion would
kill.
have killed his daughter, his adopted daughter.
You
And she
cannot
survives the
kill
explosion.
TaJa.
Do you think she'd get
Kamen
hit
Rider
by
form
like?
will not die ever, ever.
Like it's gonna be sad though because eventually, like when the actor actually dies, everyone's gonna be like, so does that mean Ichigo is dead? And it's just like you find out he's like got archived like dialogue recorded throughout the age of time. Like Fujioka is just in an ADR booth until his retirement and possible death, just making up random ass lines, and then whenever you know
He'll be a hologram.
yeah, it'll be like a hologram, and like some guy who's able to synthesize his voice will just be like adding more dialogue. So it'll be like, "Oh, hello, Kamen Rider Thanos," or Kamen Rider like whatever the hell your name is. Like it's just gonna be like a
Hey
video game.
guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey
Oh my
guy.
god, yeah. No, it's gonna be like most video games where it's just like, "Hey, dude, how are you? It's been a while. Hey, girl, how have you been?" Like it's never like just using pronoun. It's not even using pronouns. It's just referring to you as a noun. I could actually see Toei being that cheap. All right,
It's Toei, of course.
but nevertheless, though, as we are talking about with the verses, it's the first one. It's interesting. Like SoundUp says, it's mostly a Jack movie featuring Go Ranger, and that's about it. And like I said,
It's fun as hell. If you've never seen it, just watch it. Like if you've never seen Go Ranger or Jacka, they're like some of the craziest Super Sentai series because they're so experimental, and it was in that Showa era period where they just didn't care about safety rules or anything, and they just went nuts. And I love that period of time for Showa Kamen Rider and for Go Ranger and Jacka, and that movie just encapsulates all of it into one great little film that is an anamorphic widescreen, no less. So definitely worth a watch.
hey, you know what's one of the other funniest things about that? When you're saying about stuff about, hey, maybe we should like do this or do that. It's like, hey, man, should we probably put a harness on him if he's gonna jump off this side of the cliff? Nah, he's gonna nail the landing. Slips, breaks his neck. Ooh, maybe we should have used that harness.
I mean, hey, there was one time Kamen Rider V3 was supposed to climb on a cable car as it was crossing a ravine, and the stunt actor said, "Nah, that's a little insane. We're not going to do that." So V3's actor Hiroshi Miyauchi was like, "No, we're going to still do this. I'll just go climb on it." And then he forgot to hook the harness up. So
But
yeah,
didn't Hiroshi actually like train with like a lot of the original actors in the actual real stunt teams where like they would like just do it anyways because if I recall like him and Oba were like suit actors and stunt actors way before they even got as on-screen presence as
yeah.
actual
Opa
characters
was the second suit actor for
for
Ocarina.
yeah he was. And I forget with V3 he also had like a lot of stunt training as well as Fujioka. Like most of those guys that started the era, if they were even if they were the on-screen actor, they had to go through vigorous training to begin with, and then for the next 10 seasons, almost every actor was still put through, at least male actor was put through the ringer and given the whole 9 yards of learning how to train. Because a friend of mine was telling me that up until Kaku Ranger, like they made sure that every male lead had to be training under the stunt actors themselves, and then they were like, maybe we need to stop having our actors fight, guys, and that's where it led to years of darkness, sound out, you know, most late '90s into most of the 2000s, where they don't do any of their stunts. Dun dun dun.
And it's just because
The union.
Yeah, and also, and here's the unfortunate thing when it comes to, and this is with a lot of the film industry as well. You can have like your ambitious actors that go out and climb cable cars, and all that, but at the same time, if Hiroshi Miyauchi had died that day, that's the end of the show. There is no like recasting or bouncing back from that. And
Hey,
also,
hey,
never
it
caught
probably
on.
it probably would have helped to avoid O Ranger.
Yeah, but he wouldn't have gotten to play Big One or Zubat, and those are more roles along with V3. So I think that he was started with Our Ranger, or he started with V3, became Our Ranger, became Big One, became Zubat, then became whatever the chief's name was in O Ranger. I honestly don't remember. I was just like, look, it's V3.
And then
But
that
yeah,
one time in, Kaku Ranger, O Ranger versus, he was Zubat again, even though he was supposed to be a cowboy, but it reminded me too much of Zubat. I was like, nah, that's Zubat. That's not a fucking.
he also was doing Kamen Rider V3 poses the whole time.
I know, which was kind of ludicrous. It was the most ludicrous moment in that movie. Because, like, every time I rewatch that film, I always forget. So like, speaking of it, the second verses, like, it comes, like, what, like, 15, 20 years later, they're like, hey, let's try that idea again. And I'm just sitting there like, whose brilliant idea backstage was it? Because after that, we kind of got, like, verses every year except for, like, 2 years, 1 year. I think 1 year we didn't really get our natural verses, and they were still at the time mostly V cinemas till the early 2000s was when they started giving theatrical releases to them.
They got theatrical releases. Oh my gosh, that was really late. I think
It wasn't until like Hurricaneer I thought they didn't get theatrical. I
no,
could be wrong.
it wasn't even then.
Yeah, I could be wrong.
Well, because they start the theatrical summer movies as an annual thing, starting with Gal Ranger.
Yeah, Gal Ranger started it because they tried it once with O Ranger, and no, they tried it with what was it?
They did
Die Ranger,
they
O
had
Ranger.
movies. Here's the thing: they had movies they had 5 Go Ranger movies. Those were all, I believe, all of those were taking episodes of Go Ranger and making a theatrical version of it, which is the same for Jacka, Battle Fever, Denji Man, Sun Vulcan, Goggle 5, Dynaman, Bioman, and Changeman. And then Flashman, Changeman and Flashman had 2 each. Mask Man had 1, Turbo Ranger had 1, and then I think starting with Die Ranger was when it was new.
Yeah, Die Ranger did new original like Die Ranger, Kaku Ranger,
Die
O
Ranger,
Ranger
Kaku
tried
Ranger, Super Sentai World,
Yeah.
and O Ranger.
Yeah, they all
happened.
tried it, and it didn't work too good at first, and then they tried it again with.
The thing was, it worked out because it was part of the Toei Hero Festival, but after Kaku Ranger, or after O Ranger, I mean, they stopped doing the Toei Hero Festival because Metal Hero was over. Kamen Rider wasn't doing any films anymore, so it was just Sentai, and Sentai wasn't just going to go show up on its own.
Yeah, and then they tried it again with, like I said, what was it, Go-Go 5, and the movie actually was pretty good, but I think it was only
Well,
right
the
on
Go-Go
video.
5 movie was a direct-to-video.
Yeah, I thought so. It was just a direct-to-video, and then the other movies started doing the whole thing with the regular summer, but Versus were at one point just only also VA.
Versus were Versus were direct-to-video until Go Onger versus Geki Ranger.
God damn, one of my favorite Sentais, Go Onger. Haha!
The thing was that it was originally planned to be a V cinema.
Yeah, that's right, it was.
But the thing was that what they were doing at the time was Kamen Rider, after Den-O, was going to be doing the Den-O movies every spring, so they wanted Sentai to get a chance of having their own second theatrical release outside of the summer Rider Sentai Duo movie.
So even then, we're dealing with V cinema material when we get to O Ranger versus Kaku Ranger, which, like, I don't even understand, because, like, I haven't done enough research on the reasoning behind it, because it just seems like they came out of the blue because O Ranger's ratings were okay, they weren't great, that, like, they seemed to be like, oh, hey, maybe if we released a movie with them teaming up with the Kaku Rangers, it might do significantly better, and the funny thing about it is, this movie is alternate reality, or it either takes place between, what is it, episodes 30 to 35? Because it's before King Bakid is killed off, and, Boldant hasn't upgraded to Kaiser Boldant yet. So, like, this movie is, like, really crazy, because it takes place in the middle of the series, where most verses try to take place within the last bit of the show, or right after the show, because, what is it, when we get O Ranger, Car Ranger, this is taking place probably in the late half of Car Ranger and way after O Ranger. Then Car Ranger and Mega Ranger is literally supposed to be occurring still like right after the Neji Ranger arc. Then we have freaking the Ginga Man versus Mega Ranger, which takes place right after Ginga Man, like literally a couple of months after Ginga Man. Ginga Man Go-Go 5 takes place like episode 44, 45, almost like, most Kamen Rider films. In the last 40 episodes.
Films end up taking place in the last arc of the show, past the final mecha debut, past all power-ups, so the crossover has access to every power they want to use for it.
Yeah, and like only the early ones kind of played around with the idea of, are we in the middle of the show? are we at the near end gritty moment of the ending, or are we straight on after the series? Which I think is one of the cool things about the early 90s ones, as well as the element of they actually, at least in the movie, have a reason for like the Rangers to end up fighting each other, so it's called a versus movie at one point, you know? I think, what is it, Ranger Cocker Ranger doesn't enable the whole versus thing, but it's the following like couple of films that tries
Well,
to
it's because
encompass it.
this is the thing is that there's a name thing, the naming convention. Most of the time, for example, Gekiso Sentai Car Ranger versus O Ranger. That's the naming convention of the versus series. But the first one was the O Ranger Kaku Ranger is actually Choriki Sentai O Ranger Ole versus Kaku Ranger. It's listed first as an O Ranger movie and secondly as a versus Kaku Ranger movie. So it actually has a completely different title system.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like this first movie, just like I said, it came out of the blue because like even then, when you watch this film, it just feels so out of the blue.
And the Kaku Rangers are out of the blue in the movie because the movie's progressing just kind of like another O Ranger tale, and then the Kaku Rangers just happen to be in it.
Yeah, like they start getting their asses kicked, and then Chief's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go get reinforcements." They're like, "What do you mean by reinforcements?" Well, we're dealing with yokais. I know who can handle the yokai. And then all of a sudden, the Kaku Rangers just show up, and they're like, "Wait, what? Oh yeah, I know the Kaku Rangers." And they're like, "Wait, what?" Like they're actually acknowledging the Kaku Rangers exist, because most Sentais don't acknowledge their predecessors until like moving forward with every V cinema, like, or I should say every versus.
And with this is the already weird timeline of O Ranger since it started out being in the future year of 1999, and then after a certain point they just ignored that and decided, yeah, we're just gonna just have it present day, I guess, because it ends up for here and for the future with the versus movies. It doesn't make any sense for it to be taking place in 1999.
Oh yeah, and that's the
Yeah.
funniest part because, like, I think like we're trying to say is like why we wanted to talk about the Versus series is just talking about how unique most of these films are, as well as a lot of the themes they approach in these movies. Because like this one, even though it's kind of like the first inkling of a true Versus series of where it built off of, it doesn't indicate why it's called Versus. Like I don't even understand why they ever used the term for this movie if it's really straight on a team up where there's no
Well,
need of like
here's the interesting part I'm going to throw. I'm going to interrupt you for a second. The verses in the versus titles for Sentai movies is similar to Japan's naming convention for crossovers. Okay? What's weird is that in Japan, a lot of the time, versus does not mean that the two teams are going against each other head to head. The versus is that because of the loose translation of the word versus between English and Japanese, in Japanese it's more of a coming together of two series. While if it was listed with an X for a cross, if it was a cross like that, it means it's going to be a fight between those two teams. Much like the superhero Tyson films are Kamen Rider cross Super Sentai cross Space Sheriffs or whatever.
Yeah, because that's the funny thing. Like when I see the cross, like in Japanese titles, I think it's actually meant to be a like crossover or team up. When I hear versus, I'm expecting, straight on drag out fight.
And it's a culture difference, I think, because
Yeah.
in America we associate versus with fights.
But I think they also screwed themselves because you have, the classic kaiju saga, Godzilla versus, Gamera versus. That makes you think, well, obviously they're gonna fight each other because it says versus in the title.
Right, and it could be just a Toei versus Toho thing as well. But the thing is too, if you think about Godzilla versus Mothra, was known as Godzilla and Mothra: The Battle for Earth.
And that was American changing the title.
Yeah. Why is it that the Japanese title was using the versus Gojira Tai Mothra, but then America changed it to an and?
I've always heard the
kinda-
reason
it's
that the
kind of a
name was
weird thing, I
changed.
think.
I heard that the name was changed out of the simplicity of that they were both deemed heroes, even though like no one at freaking like Sony marketing didn't really realize that Godzilla's a villain in the Heisei era.
But also the fact that we have Godzilla versus Mothra and Mothra versus Godzilla. Really tricky with marketing in America because people are dumb.
Oh yeah, and then don't forget the other one that's always been done by Japanese standards, where it's God's
Mechagodzilla.
no. Godzilla cross Mechagodzilla cross Mothra Tokyo SOS. And it's like, wait, are they teaming up together? No, they're actually fighting each other. I'm like, then why is it called cross? Like Tokyo SOS sounds like a really battle royale-esque kind of name. But like when you read the first part of the name, Godzilla cross, you know what I'm saying? Insert monsters, it changes that up.
I almost feel like the use of cross against versus has changed between the Showa era and the Heisei era
Yeah, that
in
could
that
probably
regard.
be the case because, like, at least with Showa, I should say the Heisei era of Godzilla, they still kept verses in the title for their films. But then when you got to the Millennium era of Toho, they were like, we kind of got to stop using the term verses. They're like, why is that? Because Super Sentai is like butchering it.
Let's also remember that Godzilla against Mechagodzilla is the American title, but it was released in Japan as Godzilla cross Mechagodzilla.
Yeah, that was also another screwed up and interesting
But yet
thing.
again, that's another
Yeah,
Millennium era
yeah.
film.
But as we were saying though, like we said, it really does feel like a straight on team up, and it's funny that they acknowledge that they both exist in the same universe. And then when you get to the next Super Sentai team up, neither team knew each other existed. They were like, "What? Like, who's you?
It's
Who's
like
that?"
Car Ranger missed the invasion of Earth by the Machine Empire.
Pretty much the paranoia. Like they're like, "What? Bara? What? UAO? Wow? Yo?" Like it was kind of interesting because I like the idea that it actually features itself as a versus, and I think the reason it really was a versus only was because it's a comedy. So the Car Rangers are supposed to be idiots. So they see this monster that doesn't look so villainous getting chased down by a bunch of guys trying to kill it, and they just stupidly fall into it, going, I'm a good guy. These guys have been hunting me, and they've been trying to kill me because they think I'm some rare thing or whatever. And then he's like, "Oh, I'll protect you." Then the Bazoko gang shows up, and they're like, "Yo, get the fuck out of here." And then they join the O Rangers just very briefly, and like it just gets confusing to all hell. However, I do think though the O Rangers really did escalate the situation because they didn't realize they were dealing with people who can be really dumb as shit.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was the one thing
Yeah, they didn't
I always
realize
loved
how
it.
dumb the Car Rangers are.
Yeah, and that's why I think that versus is one of the best verses ever done because it was a comedy and they worked off the ability of guys being so serious they couldn't realize these guys are naturally that stupid.
Yeah.
It's like one of the best verses by that standpoint is they played to their strengths. O Ranger is very very super serious when they don't really have much characterization. That all they are is just serious. And then you have Car Ranger where they have character but they're also stupid as hell. And it works perfectly. I think one of the funniest things too is they summon a mecha, then Car Ranger summons their mecha and they battle. And this is the funny thing I was telling you is that Orobo is like one of the shortest main mecha suits. When you see it compared to its, successor the following year, it's up to its goddamn breasts. Orobo's just like, what the hell is this? Now that I was saying, like, Orobo is like really short. It's just funny. So when you watch this fight, it's hilarious when they're just fighting each other. I think it has one of the best fight scenes too in the series, not just because it was Mecha versus Mecha, but actually when Red Racer and O Red start battling each other with their signature like weapons, I think is really elaborate. Now, the funny thing is, like we said, like it plays off of the strengths of it being a comedy, O Ranger trying to be a very serious, like military-esque genre Sentai, and throws the two together, pretty good, pretty decently. I think it's interesting. However, like the next couple of Versus films try to, I think, copy the mold as well as try to change the mold of what they went for in their first two, outings for a versus film. And then we get, Car Ranger and Mega Ranger, where in this one the Car Rangers aren't actually their usual like they're still comedic, but I don't feel like they're, being treated as like over the top stupid like they were, would you say, in them versus Mega Ranger. Like I felt like they were pretty down to earth, pretty like
Kind of
basic
like
comedy.
they aged, they matured.
The best way to explain it is it's like going from Beverly Hills Cop 1 to Beverly Hills Cop 2, where like, you know, he's not it's like Axel Foley as the Beverly Hills Cop series goes on, he's not doing like ludicrous comedic stuff, but he's still saying really witty shit that makes you go, "Hey." And then you get 3, which is not that great, but he still does some witty ass shit. So like
Yeah.
it's like that, like the progression of Car Ranger is like they're maturing more or less, or they're actually processing crap because I think one of the scenes that you'll agree with me is like the really good scene of when they're all sitting there going, "Hey, should we make any more wishes on our little blue dragon thingy here?" And then like they're also asking them what are they gonna do in life after they're done with school, and they're like, we never really thought of that now, did we? Like it was like one of those weird things where like they showed their maturity, playing off of the strengths of them actually being adults and the Mega Rangers being like one of the very few times we've had an entire very like youthful cast. Like we did not have that for almost another 10 years before they were like, "Hey, let's get some more youthful actors up in here cuz the agencies are telling us to."
Pretty much.
Pretty much. And then you got,
Pretty much.
Ginga and Mega, which is actually a pretty good story. It's a rush job. It's interesting how they try to bring them together. And then you go from Ginga Man to Go-Go 5, and that's just as freaking interesting of how they're brought together. Unfortunately, oh no, we do have a Go-Go 5 versus Time Ranger, and that one's just kind of ludicrous. But at the same time, that was kind of like there's like this kind of weird thing going on nowadays, or I should say during those days where they would have like, oh, someone survived from the previous series and is helping the new team, get somewhere now, and that leads to the whole reason as to why they're working together because they try to explore that route a few more times even in the modern day, like what is it, Go Onger versus Shinkenger, where there's like, oh hey, look, there's a few more of the Guy arc in that, and they're trying to screw around here. And I think it also happened with Go Under and Geki Ranger, where like stuff was just going on where villains or whatever was left over or anyone that survived would just show up and try to help out the current team's villains to get revenge and destroy a new Sentai team just for the lols. Like it was
Yeah.
like some of it was never indirect, and that's the funny thing is like each of the as the years go on, the course of how either teams are brought together is either it's a mutual understanding and respect. They both either find out their villains are working together, or they're tricked into fighting each other and going, "Oh hey, they're dressed like us. They act like us. Oh, they must be technically us." And
Yeah, I think the Sentai versus movies just have a lot of fun with what they have available.
the reason we wanted to talk about this rather than just doing a whole rundown of what all the movies are is like, what do you think is the best way for them to, I guess, compose? What are some of your favorite Sentai verses, and what are things that you do and don't like about Sentai verses as either as of late or as of in certain installments? Because like there's a few that come out as okay, I would have just enjoyed them fighting each other and then learning to work together rather than them straight on being a whole weird like, hey man, you're like us, but we're older than you, so we know how to teach. Like there's a lot of weird dynamics, you know what I'm saying, like that are explored in the versus movies, and I think like there's things that they do right and do wrong depending on what teams they put together. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, you want an example of done right and one of done wrong?
Pretty much that would be a great way to start.
Okay, I'm going to start with wrong. The Sentai versus movie done wrong is Kyoryuger versus Go Busters. I really hate that movie on several levels because I feel like when you're doing a versus movie, you have two teams, current team, past team. You're basically, when you're writing it, I kind of imagine it that if you're writing a versus movie, you're just got, here's your list of Rangers and their gear, here's the other list of other Rangers and their gear and their personality quirks. You just got a bunch of toys you can play with, basically, and make a cool story out of it. And those are always the most successful of the versus movies, are the ones that just have the most fun. Now, the problem with Kyoryuger versus Go Busters is that instead of focusing on Kyoryuger interacting with Go Busters, because they already kind of met in Superhero Tyson Z, instead of actually doing that and following up on characters from Go Busters, they were like, nope, we're just going to do a three-way dinosaur Sentai crossover while also turning the Kyoryugers evil. And there was so much other stuff going on that distracted from the Go Busters being there that the Go Busters basically might as well have not even been in the movie. And that's an indication of just a bad crossover in
Yeah,
general.
that like how they did it is bad. Like it's a fun thing to watch, but production wise, it was screwed up because the funny thing they should have done is like when they have these seasons that have like a real narrative of like similarities, they should either try to cut a deal with Bandai to say, hey, could you maybe either one like give Kamen Rider the shorter movie and give us the longer movie this summer, or two change up the throw the book out the window and have just done Super Sentai verses of the Dino themes and say, oh, Go Busters and Koiger you already met because of Superhero Tyson Z and just avoided it all completely because there was the whole fact with they didn't need to do Go Kaiger versus Go Sager because they had 199 and they already did that, so they went right to Gavin and boom, because they realized they kind of fucked up, you know?
Well, that's the thing is like, I think that with Kyoryuger versus Go Busters, if they had more interaction in Superhero Tyson Z, then we could have just kicked them out of the crossover and just done the dinosaur crossover.
Yeah, and that was one of the things where, ironically, I was displeased by, what is it, Ninja teaming up with Tokyuger was, they should have actually did the Hurricaneger and the actual Kaku Ranger thing as a movie rather than a couple of episodes in the TV series.
I'd rather have it as a couple of episodes because I think like when you're doing these special, like you need to like keep this consistency of every, at the end of the series, we're going to have a crossover current team and previous team. And, like Zyuohger had it right where they went and did like a Gokaiger crossover for the Sentai anniversary during the series and it tied into the plot of the show. Go Busters had a crossover with the new Space Sheriff Gavan to tie into his movie, which happened in the show. And Ninja had a crossover with Hurricaneger and Kaku Ranger in the series. I think they should have waited because they did it really early on.
Yeah, I think that was maybe the real issue is that they did it too
Like if they've
soon,
done it in
and they didn't get enough of the actors.
Yeah, a fall time, or maybe have spread it out and then they had like, oh, here's the two reds this time, and then later in the season they got like the two blues or something.
I feel like I know for a fact when it comes to Kaku Ranger, they would easily be able to get back, red, white, and I want to say either blue or yellow, but I know for a fact getting Kosogi, Kane to come back would be like them having to like fork over like real money because I think Kane would come back, but like his manager would be like, nah, we want this amount. Where Kane's like, nah, I'll come back, and they'll be like, nah, this amount, and he'd be like, no, I'm going. Like it's one of those things where like I'm pretty sure his manager or Japanese side agency would probably block him from doing it because what is it? Ko has to have at least not Ko, Kane, because father's called Sho. That's what I'm thinking Ko. But Kane, you know what I'm saying? Like Kane as Ninja Black probably has a Japanese agency as well as an American manager, so it's like one of them would be like cock blocking him if he ever tried to come back to Sentai. But like at least 4 out of the 5 Kaku Rangers could come back. For Hurricanegers, we know all 5 could come back out of the Hurricanegers, since Hurricanegers nothing more than just a voice.
True, and it's one of those things where I think like if they sprinkled it out through the year would have been cool too.
But yeah, because the problem with Ninja was like they didn't do anything really remarkable with that series. They didn't.
Well, let's talk about a good Sentai crossover, Sentai versus.
All right, what's your choice on a good one?
Probably my favorite Super Sentai movie of all time, which is Gokaiger Go Sager 199 Heroes Battle.
Yeah, that's actually probably one of the best things they did, and shockingly enough, it's a Gokaiger production. Seeing that earlier today, Wheelchair started a flame war when he brought up how people should stop recommending Gokaiger as the first Sentai they should go watch.
Yeah, they need to start with a better series.
Well, I mean, Gokaiger's good and fun, but the problem is, it kind of spoils you on what Sentai is, and doesn't really give you a proper introduction on what, old Sentai is, because of the whole modern, it's a goddamn toy commercial for Bandai, where the old one was, oh no, it's still a toy commercial, but we still treated it like, for all audiences.
Also, we got less toys to sell, so we got some space to breathe.
Oh yeah, exactly. Because, like, the best way I can explain it is, for people who hate Q Ranger, Gokaiger is literally that, but you're blind to it. It's just a show that's fun to watch.
Q Ranger's honestly a better show, though.
Okay, I want you to post that everywhere, like right after this recording is done. I want people to know this.
These are all fantastic shows. Fun now.
I know. Whoa now, Project. Don't start civil wars.
Oh, you said
Project, don't start civil wars here. That will get shit finished.
Come on, I'm justified. Think about it. Who likes Jetman?
Oh god, you know what? When you use that reasoning, it really does ruin Jetman for me. It really does ruin Jetman for me when you mention who stole my catchphrase.
Yeah, I still like Five Man better than Jetman.
Well, found out. We will throw you down the stairs.
What's wrong with Five Man? Five Man's great.
It's all right.
Five Man's amazing.
I just need to find out if Five Man's the one that I think it is, because I haven't seen it in a long ass time. So if it is the one with a series finale where they destroy a fucking giant planet, oh yeah, then it's actually great.
I am on episode 27, so I'll let you know.
I could just go watch the final episode to double check, but you know what? I'm not gonna do that just right yet.
Okay, anyways, back to
Yeah,
Gokaiger
199.
battle.
Yeah, the one that actually is a good representation, even though the final battle could have been a little bit better, and I mean like the mecha battle could have been a little bit nicer, but you know they destroyed most of the suits and didn't want to remake them.
Yeah, and honestly though, like I thought it was like I honestly enjoy that mecha battle more than I do the one from Kyoryuger versus Go Busters.
Here's the only reason why I can agree with you on that point is only because, if I recall correctly, in the Gokaiger 199, Toei was kind of smart because if I recall, they had Daijujin, Dairino, and Muteki Shogun all together, like finish off one monster as a send off to Power Rangers.
They did, and then some of the suits that they remade for that movie got used again for Go Busters versus Gokaiger when they had the Mecha Ranger keys.
I also liked what was it when Engino and RV Robo did their fucking maneuvers, and they're literally the same thing. Just Engino doesn't do the spin out.
Well, you know why the that Mecha battle is so good, right?
Because they properly tried to time all the finishers with similar finishers and similar Sentais.
Well, here's the thing. It's the exact parallel of the legendary battle from the beginning of the movie, where you had a lot of similar teams with similar themes teaming up together, and they did the same team-ups in the mecha battle.
They practically did, or at least the mechas were similar to... Like, it wasn't the themes of the teams, it was more the themes of the mechas, because don't forget, some Sentais have, like, mechas that kind of don't match what their theme naturally is.
Ninja.
Well, yeah, that's true. Or Battle Fever J, where.
Well, but it was the same kind of idea of, we have every single Sentai team here, we have every single Sentai mecha. Let's match them up, pair them up, have them work together, get crazy crossovers.
If I recall correctly, Time Robo didn't even fight in that battle as a Alpha or Beta. It fought only as Gamma to be paired up with what was it, the Varabloom.
Varbloom and the Jacko thing.
Whereas Icarus actually got to fight as Icarus and not in its jet mode.
But yeah, that's what makes that movie great is that you get all these crossovers. It also is probably closer to being a versus movie because it features Gokaiger and Goseiger fighting all the other Sentai.
As well as they fought each other in the first 10 minutes.
Oh yeah, because the Goseigers were like, hey, we want our powers back.
That's the one thing also why I kind of hate the Gokaigers in some regards, but it's also a great learning curve, is that, the Gokaigers themselves are aliens, so they don't know who these other Sentais are, so it's supposed to be, the new audience joining in, but I also felt it was, a slap in the face where, they should have been people that are fighting the rebellion that, worshipped and idolized the heroes, rather than a bunch of space douches having
Well, that was the thing.
being told.
The reason why Gokaiger was well-received and also the reason why Gokaiger stands out is because it's a team of assholes.
So it's Hero Club.
Basically.
Pretty much, just with,
Basically, yeah.
Pretty much.
The Gokaigers don't really care about Super Sentai history, except when it benefits them to find the treasures so they can get the grand power.
See, Wheelz. There's a whole rant about what Gokaiger should have been.
Yes,
Do you think Gokaiger should have been an Earthling instead of an alien?
Yeah, Gokai Red should have actually been an Earthling that was sent into space.
And then he knows about the Sentai, that's why he knows about all that shit, instead of fucking, what's his face?
Yeah,
Silver?
because Silver does nothing in the show. He kind of just does nothing except, give exposition on who these characters are when they bump into them, and that's literally all he fucking does. Because he barely fights, he barely uses his power up.
Because there was complaints from parents that the show wasn't explaining the past Sentai well enough.
The show didn't! It didn't!
It really didn't. It didn't. It had a lot of flaws. I love the show, but it has a lot of flaws.
And I remember I got into the argument one time that one of my biggest hates for this show is that they did this really weird thing, right? Where some of the teams would be like, oh, back in my day, this is what the show was about. And I'm like, I watched your Sentai! You were nothing like that!
Yeah.
Because I forget, what was it? There was there was this one.
The Power Ranger episode bugs me because it's really out of. It's like It's like the episode was written by somebody who didn't actually watch Car Ranger but heard about it.
Exactly. That's what I feel like some of
or
the
just
episodes were like.
it's a guy who read the Wikipedia.
Yeah, and then also like I think like one of the better Gokaiger like tribute episodes was Live Man, because it was in the style of Live Man and it actually continued the plot of Live Man.
Like, you know, it's a good episode that also is similar to that. The one where they're like, "Oh, hey, Inoue's still working for us. Have him go write the Jetman episode." Inoue writes perfection.
Oh yeah, that episode was beautiful.
It is. It's perfect. The only thing I don't like though is that they reason that, oh yeah, ghosts are just on another level that can actually fight aliens, and I was like, that is terrible reasoning, but I'll take it.
I also love the Time Ranger episode where they explain
Yes.
Gokaiger's pre-series cameo.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. When they show up in the Versus movie, right? Ghost Sager and Shinkenger.
Yep.
My other favorite part though is something that this is the thing that I also hate, because if people say go watch this first, it spoils you certain elements, like, you know, Gayuki dying, or my other favorite one of where, you know, at the very end of the Time Ranger one, Domon breaks down crying because he finds out that he has a kid that shouldn't technically exist, nor should he technically even remember it because they altered the you know what? That's the only thing I hate about Time Ranger. The time continuity fucks up. Okay? I'm just gonna say this. Time Ranger supposedly writes it out that they don't exist anymore, but yet they do.
And the thing is, the more you break down Super Sentai continuity, the less sense it makes. So
I'm already smoking crack. I'm already smoking crack.
I've been trying to piece together a Sentai continuity flowchart. It has been canceled because the results were inconclusive. There is no continuity.
There is no continuity because at one point O Ranger destroys it, in another point Time Ranger destroys the continuity because they erase themselves from existence, but they still exist nevertheless.
Yep.
See? Do you see?
And then we don't get into how it gets connected to Kamen Rider continuity, which is also a giant mess.
You know, it's another good Versus film, I think, that a lot of people overlook, and this is one that I brought up to you when I was, you know, binge watching a majority of them to get, you know, reacquainted with a lot of the earlier ones that I hadn't seen in a while. It's freaking Hurricaneer versus Gal Ranger, because the freaking villains in Hurricaneer are smart. They're like, hey, why don't we go to, you know, the Japanese version of the Animarium, which I forget if it was called an Animarium or something, because, you know, Wild
It was
Force.
called it was the
I forget what it was actually called, because most of it was just copy and paste over into Power Rangers Wild Force.
It was.
It kind of was. So, like, literally...
No, it entirely was.
Yeah, so literally the villains in Hurricane are like, well, we're ninjas. Let's just go up there and steal the powers of a previous Sentai team and pose as them and ruin their reputation. So the first, like, 30 minutes of the movie is actually them fighting the Gal Rangers, thinking they're fighting the Gal Rangers, only for, what is it, like, most of the Gal Rangers to show up and be like, who the fuck are you? And they're like, uh-oh, we've been caught. Dun, dun, dun. Leading to them trying to get the powers back. And it's like, it's literally one of the best freaking verses I've ever seen, because it treats it as a versus, it treats it as them actually knowing them existing, so on and so forth, as well as, I would say, the only Power Rangers crossover to ever emulate something almost as good as this, or, you know, other things that were implemented in Super Sentai Versus, is Dino Thunder versus Ninja Storm, and their crossover. It was like a perfect Super Sentai Versus film, but with all original American footage.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably one of the best Power Rangers crossovers ever, Ninja Storm and Dino Thunder. I shit you not. It's probably the best one. Because most of the earlier ones weren't that good. Like, the only other one that probably holds anything close to a Power Rangers crossover is Galaxy and In Space, just because they used it as a point to write out a character who needed to be written out because of her goddamn cancer.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably, like, the smartest crossover. The weakest crossover is Lightspeed Rescue versus Time Force, because the Time Ranger versus Go-Go 5 is actually a pretty good one. It's not the greatest, but it's pretty decent because it does a lot more with the ability of time travel than Time Force did with Go-Go 5, because they still could have used the mecha battle. They still could have, and they could have gotten away with how they did it too, because all it does is Time Robo's giant chest where the sword comes out of opens a time gate and brings all of the freaking Go-Go 5 mechs, you know, Lightspeed Rescue mechs, through to the present day, and they could have gotten away with it. And that's why one of the reasons I kind of don't like that crossover, because a lot of the American ones got in trouble for abusing the footage and desecrating the footage, i.e., you know, Go-Go 5 versus Gingaman. And that's what I heard was also a rumor, is that they weren't allowed to have the Sentai versus movie footage anymore because of the desecration of footage allegedly from Toei. But I believe that's just a really bad rumor spread by
It was more
purists.
the movies are licensed separately from the series, and so they'd have to pay more to get the versus movie footage.
But
And at
sometimes
that
they were
point,
allowed the suits, so they were just at least able to get away with that.
yeah, it's like at that point, if you're gonna be buying the movies separately, you might as well just make a new one.
Exactly, which was kind of smart that they at least gave them the suits, but they just didn't give them the movies.
Well, they rented the suits, but
Yeah, they still rented the suits. But yeah, no, like I think like really good ones are like you say, the Versus 199 because it does everything. They're fighting each other, they're fighting other teams, they're learning to work together, they're learning to understand what Sentai is, and it's a good explanation. It's a good anniversary. It's probably the best Sentai anniversary movie technically ever because
it's the best Toei anniversary movie
yeah,
because everything else just has issues.
because
I
here's the
think the
thing,
only thing that's kind of close is All Riders versus Die Shocker, or Five Riders versus King Dark.
yeah, All Riders versus Die Shocker is the decade one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because I was gonna say if you say Kamen Rider Let's Go, that's like one of my most hated anniversary films of all time.
Found out you're fired if you say that movie was better.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I did enjoy Kamen Rider Tyson though.
Yeah, a lot of people hate anyone who. I know a lot of people who hate people like you and me who enjoy Kamen Rider Taisen.
I kind of hate that they did two endings.
Yeah, the endings made no sense, but that's a different story. We're talking about Sentai versus. I'm just kidding. But
Speaking of Sentai versus, in a weird twist of fate, I think that Kamen Sentai Go Rider was probably one of the best Toei productions of the last 5 years.
yeah, it actually was a pretty solid one, and it
It's
was
like it
ludicrous.
is the dumbest suits. I don't
Yeah,
like the Go Rider
it
suits,
was pretty stupid.
but that was like a solid miniseries.
It's
Same
like
thing
it's
with
like
Kamen Rider Yongo,
yeah, I was about to
actually.
say it's like the Kamen Rider Yongo one where they were like, "Hey, yo, we're making these shorts. You're gonna love them," and we're like, "What? You're gonna make something we actually love?
Yeah,
What?"
Yongo and Go Rider are probably two of the best Toei productions in the last 5 years,
But
honestly.
here's something that I was trying to say though that's pretty funny too, is like when you're talking about like Sentai versus, you know what I found funny though, like as I was saying, was the anniversary films. You got Gal Ranger versus Super Sentai, which is a
Oh,
majority.
you mean clip shows
Yeah,
with yeah,
yeah, mostly clip show
clip
with
show.
some new footage, and then you have following Bokenger versus Super Sentai, and they're both lackluster. But here's the thing: when you compare the two, Go Ranger versus Bokenger, not Go Ranger, Gal Ranger versus Bokenger versus. The problem is most people prefer to like the Gal Ranger one more than the Bokenger one, only because of the actors they got back to be the team of Sentai characters brought together. Whereas in Bokenger versus, they were like, oh well, since we already did Gal Ranger, we don't have to do Sentais for like all of them. We'll just do Hurricane Ranger now, which a lot of people did not appreciate, which was kind of comical in a sense because that one was better written. It wasn't the best, nevertheless, because there's that whole part where like for 10 minutes, what is it? The Bokengers are stuck with Magi Shine in some weird dimensional void, and they have to wait for Tsubasa to break them out.
Side dimension.
Yeah, like that was kind of
Yeah,
like the stupidest part.
I will say this much: the Power Rangers vs Super Sentai is really enjoyable, but it is 80% music video.
Because all it is just previous Sentai's comebacks, Senshis, and they're like, hey, I'm going to give you a montage of every ranger that wore that color before you and explain what they had to do to earn that color. And I'm just sitting there like, of all people you bring back badass Ginga Blue, who is a great actor in Japan, but you bring back him, who was kind of like dumb as fuck sometimes. And you're sitting there like, how is he going to know anything about his heritage? All he knows is how to make food. All he knows is how to cook and screw hot teachers.
But the point is that yeah, I did like that even though it was 80% clip show, it was teaching a lesson to the Gal Rangers.
Yeah, and one of those lessons was don't trust that old man who looks like Tuxedo Mask, because he's gonna fuck your ass up.
Pretty much.
Then eventually someone was asking him, "Hey, you're gonna become Kamen Rider V3?" And he's like, "Fuck that shit. I'm a Sentai guy now."
Yeah, he's big one forever.
Now, the funny thing is though, in the modern age, do you think the biggest issue of why certain Super Sentai verses aren't that good is because like I've always said, is that these actors who play our heroes don't necessarily look the part of these true badass heroes, So like when you see like the newer team mixing with the older team, they're all so young that it's like, how do you relate them together? Because they just look like there's not a year's difference apart from them, whereas like certain Sentai teams do.
Well, it's like that's the thing though. Is like you're looking at this team is returning after like
A year.
like less than a year since the last time we saw them. So they're relatively the same, which is why they changed their haircuts. So there can be
Yeah,
some
so but do you also think that the stereotype of the characters, like how a lot of them fit similar cliches of the past 10 to 15 years, also is the reason that the show, like, or at least the team-ups also are kind of bad, is that they at least have one matching aspect, like each of their teams at least all have that stuff to play off them, whereas some teams in the 90s, at least, they did fit a stereotype, but each character was kind of, they never felt like they were the exact similar to each other, even on their opposing teams. Like, we know the leader has to be the badass suave, like, debonair leader, and you would have that. But then, like, the rest of the teams didn't, like, they'd all fit different stereotypes of the extra or the female.
yeah.
Whereas, like, nowadays, like, they all fit the same mold. It's just copy-paste, new suit.
Pretty much.
But as I was trying to say before we were rudely interrupted by Alexa, like, don't you guys just find it weird that, like, most actors now are just copy and paste of, like, one another? So it's like, what can you do there, you know? Like, what's, like, how can they fix it? Do you think they need to start adding back more dynamic characters?
I think as well, like, I don't know. I feel like Zyuohger and Kyuranger had different dynamics. So I'm really excited for their Versus movie for that reason. Because I feel like there's so much variety there to play with.
Yeah, like, I can see this going to be a really good variety series, because, like, the one thing I find funny is how at least certain Sentais nowadays want to play, like, that weird, dumb luck, dumbfounded kind of, like, Red Senshi. Like, you have Lucky, you've had Daigo, you've had, John from Geki Ranger, but then at least the season before them and the season after them, they at least go, okay, we're not going to have the wimpy, well, not wimpy, but the weirdly dopey kind of Red as our leader this season, so at least we have, one confident one to play off of him as the straight shooter, and, like, be like, how does your team even tolerate you as a leader?
Like Yamato in Zyuohger.
Yeah, so I feel like when Yamato deals with Lucky, like, they'll be able to relate, because Yamato's still kind of carefree, but he's not stupid like Lucky at times. Like, I do like Lucky, but he does do a lot of stupid shit.
Well, he's not really stupid. He is just reckless. There's a difference.
You know, there's reckless stupidity and then there's just recklessness.
Oh, you mean Ninja?
I mean, I think Lucky's probably about as reckless as Kenta from Mega Ranger. Well, until Kenta almost got one of his teammates killed, in which case he was like, oh crap, I should start thinking things through.
But nevertheless, though, is there other things we should talk about with Super Sentai Versus before we wrap up in, like, the next 5 minutes?
Hey, you guys talk about the Gokaiger versus Gavin?
We kind of did, because it's one of those ones where they were like, we already did the 199, so let's bring back Gavin for the fuck of it. And that led to a whole resurgence of Metal Hero, which we so...
I think it was just like, they were like, oh, what do we do for the regular versus? Because doing Ghost Sager versus Gokaiger would be redundant. What about Gavin? Anybody got Kenji Oba's number?
I got it.
Kenji Oba shows up, like, already, like, 2 other times in the series, so it's like, oh, hey, he's still here, let's get him. Hey, you want to be Gavin again? He's just like, hells yeah.
Oh, right, he was in 199.
He was in 199, and then he was in the Christmas episode, remember?
Yeah.
And then, all 3 of him showed up at once, because God commanded him to transform.
And also, don't forget, his Ranger keys opened the gun. Was that the Maku space or whatever? What the hell's it called?
Don't forget, like the actual character and personification description to explain why they're so different is literally explained yet again. Like, no, they just look alike. This one smells like this type of food and the fresh air of Africa. And I'm like, well, which part of Africa? Because Africa's not really that fresh of air, depending on where you're living.
Look, Battle Fever J logic should not be questioned because it's going to just hurt you.
Say, if you actually questioned, like, areas of actual Africa, like, depending on where he was, it isn't that fresh because, forest fires and stuff that I don't want to talk about.
Where Justin Gabriel came from, if anybody knows in professional wrestling.
Wait, wasn't he from South Africa when Battle Kenya is supposed to be actually from Kenya?
I don't know. Africa.
To Projekt, Africa is just Africa.
It's just a place. It's just one place. There's no countries.
It's a continent.
No Somalian pirates. Nothing like that. All right. So, anyways, since I said we'll be wrapping up shortly, uh, when it comes to Super Sentai verses, what do you think is the best attribute in them thus far? Is it the do you think it's the end game mecha battles or is it the overall dynamic? Because sometimes I
I
think the
think
mecha battles are more like rewarding or them fighting each other than the actual dynamic of what is
you,
presented.
I think it's just the fan service when they do the roll call, man. It gives you the chills, bruh. Especially if you haven't seen a certain Sentai in a while, depending on who it is.
Yeah, if it's like a team you really loved and they're finally back, it's just like the best feeling ever.
'Cause, like, I'll tell you this right now, I wish we had like special like versus movies. Like, you know, like how Kamen Rider like really gets the like the love stick for most of the goddamn superhero Taizens or the spring films. Like I really would love a Sentai film that's like almost like Space Squad but without metal heroes, where it's actually like different Sentai teams having to interact. Like not like Super Sentai Versus where they just chose one of each team of every other team. Like I mean like you choose like a couple of members of each team, so like bring back like maybe like the either the two Go Riders or the three main Hurricanegers. Then bring in maybe like the Go on, no yeah like bring in like the Go on Wings, like like guys that were like small divisions of themselves and one full team, and have them orchestrate and work together, and then that lead to like just one crazy thing of them fighting like some revived supervillain of Sentai history. We're like, oh shit, this guy's back. Looks like we're gonna go call the other teams to get involved and take this mofo down. Rather than
Or
and then like
because
feature some common riders, so it's still a Super Sentai, superhero Tizen. But like I kind of hate that Sentai over the years has gotten the shaft for Rider.
Yeah, Rider ended up becoming like significantly more popular than Sentai, even though it was like the exact opposite in the 90s. Which is why I like, I think Sentai got complacent and stopped trying so hard.
they got lazy, as far as I am concerned.
And
It's because they have that Saban and
basically,
Disney money.
they got kind of lazy, and then Rider scooped up their popularity and then never gave it back.
Yeah, because like that's the thing is like because you remember what was it in Superhero Tizen Z where they were actually thinking smart of like riders teaming with like certain Sentais that match their gimmick or at least their suits. Like I would love to see another Superhero Tizen, but have it where you get the actors of Sentai actors back with the current team of the Sentai and the current team of like riders, and they're like, oh shit, we have to work together to fight some ancient Sentai villain or some Sentai villain that
Hey, man.
technically can't really
But
be
they-
killed.
Wheels Mega Ranger teams up with the riders from X8.
It would be so weird because like the Mega Rangers would hack the Gash Hats in the first place. Like what is it? Mega Yellow would just hack the Gash Hats so they don't work, and then Kuroto Don would like lose his shit and like have a brain aneurysm, costing him a continue.
Oh my god, yes.
And then knowing how Mega Red is, like he would do something like perverse and like hack Poppy's program so she's like wearing something almost like that she shouldn't be wearing. So it's like out of nowhere it goes to her like wearing like a bikini and she's like, stop that. Like and he's just
That's
like
what you want, Wheels. That's what you want.
that's what the fandom wants, okay? Don't deny us.
Sounds like what you want specifically.
Specifically you, Wheels. I don't think it's the fans. I think it's just you.
I don't know. Let me go ask Facebook. I'm pretty sure I'll get some replies.
This is a message for Ruka Matsuda. I apologize for the actions of our friend Wheelchair 21. He does not represent Hero Club.
Hey, I was gonna say no. We
He
got
is
to.
on his own.
I was gonna say if anyone has to apologize, it's the fandom right now reacting over to her smoking. Oh, it'd be a really great Sentai, like if they did a Super Sentai versus and like they were to do one with Lupin Ranger and Pato Ranger, have it be them with the cast of Build, with the cast like bring back Shinosuke, bring in the Deca Rangers, and then bring in Kamen Rider G3 and like just make them like the focal point. And
All the
G-Bon,
cops?
and bring in G-Bon. And just bring in the cops teams, and they're all just and for most of the time of the movie, the villain set up the Pato Rangers to be the fall guys. So like all the cops are just chasing the Pato Rangers around until like out of nowhere the Car Rangers just show up as the ones who like catch the bad guy red-handedly and just make it a comedy movie. Like Car Ranger just shows up and they're like, "Hey guys, the Pato Rangers aren't the ones who did it this time. Who is it?" And like, "Oh no, it's not even. Oh my God, it's not even the Car Rangers who catch them. It's the Bazooka Gang reformed. It's just like their suits show up. They just have the villain tied up in chains. Yo, it was this guy the entire time." And like the other Sentais are like, "Who the fuck are these guys?" And then like Gokai Silver shows up. "Oh, this is the Bazooka Gang. They're formerly villains that fought the Car Rangers." and like that's all Guy does is just come in to drop common knowledge. Oh my
And then
god!
Tomorrow.
Oh my god! Sound out. Oh my god! He's the Deanna Troy of Gokaiger.
He is actually. Wow.
Wow. So nevertheless, though, yeah. Any other thoughts of like what you want to see from I guess Super Sentai verses in the future?
I want to see Kamen Rider canceled and replaced with Sentai, so we get 2 Sentais a year.
No thanks, I'll pass.
I just want to see Kamen Rider canceled and replaced with Metal Hero.
I want kid-friendly Garo because it'd be hilarious.
That's what happened to the Metal Heroes. You know what to be true? That's why Metal Heroes don't exist anymore. Because they're like, hey, let's get kid friendly. Cancelled. And we got X-Aid Level 2, which was the resurgence of Robotac and Kaibutak.
That's a crossover.
That should have been a crossover.
That
Oh
was
my god!
wonderful.
Oh my god! They put them in a Space Squad movie together. The X-Aid Riders with Robotac and Kaibutak.
The catch, they can't go to level 2. That's why they're stuck that way.
Like, here's the funny thing though, with the Space Squad movies, with how many teams they've involved, if they actually do sequels, like, do you think the sequels will be just like a random team teaming up with a Metal Hero, or do you think it'll actually be like teams working with teams if they were to move forward with the project? Actually, let's talk about that for a brief minute. Like, what's your thoughts on with Space Squad? Do you think with them having so many teams, like if it does get sequels, will it just be like, oh, we'll just see the Mega Rangers maybe team up with like, say, B Fighter Kabuto or Juko B Fighter, or will we actually see like 2 Sentai teams with like 2 Metal Heroes working together so they can progress the story in a few V cinemas and wrap up the plot they're trying to build? Or do you think it's dead in the water?
I think it all depends on the sales of not only the Blu-ray for Space Squad, but also the merchandise like the Tamashii Lab Gavan Blade and the SP licenses.
Well, you heard the
Well-
recent controversy though about the SP license, correct?
What was that?
Well, from what I heard from the distributor Procrasta Ranger before she's concluding her Japan Hero collectibles, right? She had gotten in her stock for SP licenses and found out a majority of the SP licenses have very shoddy speaker work.
The quality is terrible, or there's a malfunction, right?
There's like a bad malfunction similar to the issue that they had with the Aura Changers. And she's kind of glad that she's getting out of, like, I think she said, from what I heard, is like, this is a word of mouth from a friend of mine who read the post off to me, was saying that she's kind of glad that she's actually getting out of being a distributor now because of these issues currently occurring with the premium Bandai, like, Sentai stuff, is because it's costing them a lot of money too, to having to ship them back to get the replacements because of their customers here in North America.
There's a reason why I don't pre-order Super Sentai Artisan Cheaters anymore.
Because they kind of fucked up. The Artisan line is kind of... Like, I feel like the Artisan line, like you say, is probably going to be the downfall of how we don't get Space Squad Part 2.
It's more like that Tamashii Labs Gavan Blade went on clearance. So, honestly though, at the end of the day, Space Squad's going to depend on how the sales went with the Blu-ray and also actor availability.
Yeah, because they really took a huge jump with that, foreshadowing epilogue for the hook of a sequel. With like, oh, hey, we got all these guys together. So it's like, do you think they're actually wanting to come back is the other question.
Yeah. I mean,
So-
Deca Ranger was willing to come back, and Gavan still had a contract on this, or a movie on his
Like,
contract.
I know with B Fighter Kabuto, they're probably easily able to get back Blue Beat, as well as even Black Beat they can get back because they're goddamn twins who loves their work with Toei. I just don't know
But here's
about
the
most
thing,
of
at
the
the
other
end of the
actors.
day, you got the option of full, like, oh, the whole B fighters are nothing, and the whole Mega Rangers are nothing. Or you got, let's get one B fighter, let's get one Mega Ranger, let's get one of the spaceship, let's get Shiter, let's get... Anyways, I think we're just pretty much out of topics now.
Oh yeah, we're pretty much done. We're done. I mean, we enjoy Super Sentai Versus. They're great movies to watch. If someone hates them, then you probably need to rethink, everything about Tokusatsu and why you're doing this.
If you hate Super Sentai versus movies, then don't watch Sentai. Just get out.
Yeah, as a puppet once said, then maybe this isn't for you. All right. Nevertheless, we're going to be wrapping up this show now since we hit I think our 1 hour 10 mark. Especially the fact that it'll be cut down even shorter since I'll be editing. And as Sound Out likes to say, I'm like a genius with a knife when it comes to editing the audio down.
Yep. You're also good at complaining when I give you a nice high quality footage.
Hey, I was not expecting it to be a gigabyte, okay?
Hey, you want high quality WAV files? They're going to be over a gigabyte every time.
Well, not too high quality then. Make it under a gigabyte, but pretty high.
All right, well, then you'll only get an MP3.
As long as it can play in my editor, we're good. Nevertheless, I'm
Yeah,
wheelchair.
well, your editor, so you got a problem.
Yeah, I know. Well, then shut the fuck up. Then we'll figure it out as we go along. Anyways, I'm wheelchair 21. We were joined here tonight by Projekt RDM and Sound Out
Wait, is
12.
figure it out as we go along just the motto of the podcast?
No, I think that's just we'll figure it as we go along. It's the motto of Hero Club in general.
That's true. We don't really know what we're doing.
We never know what we're doing. That's what makes us great.
That's true.
Exactly. Nevertheless, we'll see you all next time. Hey, it's Wheelchair 21, and thanks again for listening to an all-new episode of Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu. If you want to hear more content or see more content from the Hero Club YouTube channel, we're going to need you to subscribe, like, comment with some feedback, and share this channel with a friend. We also would like you to check out our website, hero-club.com, and follow us on various social media outlets just by looking up Hero Club for Life, as well as the stores you see are where we shop. Anyways, thanks again, and we'll see you all next time.